So, Victor Oladipo wants out of Indiana. I know I'm kind of late to the party. Everybody who made a video about it, their videos are out, and they've been out hours ago, but that's besides the point. I'm still gonna give my take and show you the trades that I cooked up in the trade machine. Which, if they seem a little bit odd, or strange, or they don't make sense, that's why. So let's get right into it. The first trade we have is Victor Oladipo to the 76ers, which, that's like everybody's guess for where he goes, considering the Sixers are looking for any way they can get better. So my trade involves Victor Oladipo, and I'll put it up on the screen. Victor Oladipo to the Sixers for Josh Richardson, Zaire Smith, and Matisse Thybulle, and 2 second-round picks. One from Atlanta. So one of them will be early second round. The other will be late first round, yeah. Like 17 or 18, I'd assume. So I think the Sixers are just kind of desperate at this point. They're looking for any way to get better. And I don't think the Pacers would want Al Horford or Tobias Harris's contract. So they're kind of just stuck with that because I don't know what team would be willing to take on that much cap space. So I think the Pacers would most likely be interested in like young assets for Victor Oladipo. At least I would assume. So something to bring up is that we don't exactly know what Victor Oladipo's trade value is. He's still really young, but in the last 2 seasons, he's only played a total of 53 combined games or something like that. Not very much. He only played 19 this season and 36 the season before, so you do the math. I mean, that makes it really hard to give a realistic trade for him, considering we don't know what teams would want for Oladipo, since they don't know if he can stay healthy, or 2, if he comes back healthy, will he be as good as he was? We don't know. Will this really make the Pacers better? I mean, Victor Oladipo didn't even really play at all for them, and they were still the 4th seed in the East, so I mean, all these players really can play decent defense off the bench and provide good minutes. So I think it could make the Pacers better. As for the Sixers, like I said, it depends on how he comes back from that injury and how long it takes him to come back from that injury. So on to the next trade, which is Victor Oladipo to the Heat. So the Pacers get Kendrick Nunn and Casey Opala, the 2nd round pick in 2022 for Victor Oladipo. So I wanted to include a Heat trade because obviously they're in the NBA Finals, but they're not going to beat the Lakers. There's no way that happens. So they need to get better somehow if they want to compete for a title, which, I mean, every team wants to compete for a title, obviously. Does Victor Oladipo do that? If he comes back fully healthy? Maybe. It's possible because Tyler Hero's going to get better, Bam's going to get better. And you might be thinking, well, why trade Kendrick Nunn? Somebody was telling me this earlier in the NBA Discord that the Heat should trade Kendrick Nunn because his value isn't going to get any higher than it is right now, considering he's 24 years old. He's a rookie. He came off a pretty good season, so that point made sense to me. And I don't think he's necessarily right, but I don't think he's necessarily wrong either. So I somewhat agree with him. And I think that really the only thing the Heat would be willing to give up for Victor Oladipo is like Kendrick Nunn, because are they really going to move Dragic? The only way I see them moving Dragic is if they get Chris Paul. That's the only like realistic scenario where they give up Dragic. And to get Chris Paul, you're going to have to give up a lot more, which I want to throw some Chris Paul trades out there, depending on how well this video does. Or maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'll do it either way. Anyways, what does this do for the Pacers? So Kendrick Nunn played 67 games, which I'm pretty sure there are only 67 games played this season. So, yeah, fully healthy Kendrick Nunn doesn't really have any injury history, considering this was literally his 1st season in the NBA. Well, he played in the G League, but an actual NBA season. So, I think it really depends. I think Casey Opala, he'll get better. He'll improve a lot. I don't think he'll be like a star or anything, but probably just a solid rotational piece. Starter on a bad team. Useful off the bench for a team that's competing in the playoffs. As for Nunn, it depends. He's 24. Not sure if he's going to get any better. I think fully healthy compared to I don't know. It's really hard to say if this would be better for the Pacers, considering we don't know the status of Victor Oladipo's health. We don't know how he'll come back from the injury and all that other stuff. It's interesting. It's definitely interesting. On to the next trade. So yeah, this is probably the least realistic trade on here, and it's Victor Oladipo to the Mavericks for Courtney Lee, Tim Hardaway, and a second from Golden State, which it's an early second rounder. Shouldn't it be the first? Because then they have the best odds to get the #1 pick, so they're almost a first round pick. Not quite though. So the thing about this trade is, like, does it really do anything for the Pacers? I mean, you get something for Oladipo. Like, you get something. Hardaway's only got 1 year left on his deal. I don't know. We've seen Hardaway put up almost 20 points a game that one season on the Knicks. He put up like almost 16 this season. Provides lots of scoring, which I don't know if that's what the Pacers need. I didn't watch too many Pacers games this season. I don't know if I watched any Heat game, like a single Heat game from that Heat Pacers series, because I kind of knew how that was going to go. The Pacers without Sabonis, they're just not going to beat the Heat. That's just not going to happen. So I didn't really catch much of that. I think Sabonis coming back healthy. I don't know. Like I said, don't really know what this does for the Pacers, but the Mavericks need something to get better. They need someone to pair with KP and Luka. I don't know if Victor Oladipo's that guy, but I don't know who else is available. Maybe they could sign someone like Gordon Hayward in free agency, although I don't know if he would fit into like what the Mavericks want to do. On to the next trade. And this is probably the most interesting trade out of all of them, and it's Victor Oladipo to the Nets in exchange for Caris LeVert, Nicholas Claxton, and a second-round pick from Denver. So what makes this so interesting is Victor Oladipo next to Irving and Durant. So I think Victor Oladipo next to Irving would work really well, considering Victor Oladipo I feel like he could hide some of Irving's lackadaisical defense at times. If he comes back fully healthy, I think this makes the Nets a lot better. Which, that's not a knock against Caris LeVert. I think Caris LeVert's an amazing player, and I don't know if they value him enough to give him up for Victor Oladipo. But I think it would be definitely very interesting to see. What does this do for the Pacers, though? I mean, they get Caris LeVert, which, I mean, maybe next season he'll have a borderline all-star season. I feel like he was a borderline all-star this season. I like this trade for the Pacers more than I like it, I like this trade for the Nets more than I like it for the Pacers. If I'm the Pacers, I kind of want something more for Victor Oladipo, but I don't know if teams want to give up more for Victor Oladipo, considering they don't know what his real trade value is. I honestly don't see Victor Oladipo getting traded at all, even if he wants out, just because I don't think the Pacers are going to get anything that they would want for him. I think they might have to wait till like the trade deadline this season, once we've actually seen a little bit of Victor Oladipo, but that's besides the point. On to the next trade, which is Victor Oladipo to the Raps for OG Anunoby, Norman Powell, a 2023 second-round pick, and a 2020 second-round pick. I didn't really know what else the Raptors would give up for Oladipo, to be honest. I think Norman Powell and OG Anunoby is... I mean, you're not going to get much more from the Raptors because they don't want to make too big of a change. But they definitely need something. They definitely need something if they want to contend in the East, because the Nets are going to get better. Who else is going to get better? The Celtics are going to get better. How much better? Just depends on who they add. The Heat are most likely going to get better, so if you're going to want to compete in the East, you're going to have to make a move if you're not already there. I don't know if this does it for the Raptors, though. I don't know if Victor Oladipo is enough, but I don't know what else you could get. I've heard rumors that they want to do a sign-and-trade with the Clippers for Montrezl Harrell. I don't know how much better that makes them. Montrezl Harrell his defense at times is, well, awful. And from what I've heard, kind of a hothead. You know, the whole incident in the locker room after Game 7 or Game 5 or whatever game it was. I don't know, man. It'd definitely be interesting to see Victor Oladipo on the Raptors. But what does this do for the Pacers? I mean, you get an extremely young, valuable asset in OG Anunoby, which I think in a couple of years he could be borderline all-star. I mean, he played lights out in most of the games in that Raptors Celtics series, so if that's any indication of the future, it's looking pretty good for OG Anunoby. For Norman, as well as like for Norman Powell though, I don't know how well he'd fit alongside Brogdon. I mean, him and Kyle Lowry are two completely different players, but it's not like they're polar opposites. They're somewhat similar. Lowry's obviously a way better playmaker and shot creator than Malcolm Brogdon. I kind of like this trade for both teams, because like I said, you really don't know what... I think this is probably the highest value you're going to get for Victor Oladipo, because, like I said, OG Anunoby, young, valuable player, Norman Powell, valuable starter, and we just really don't know how Victor Oladipo is going to come back from that injury. Last, I'm going to bring up an honorable mention, and I had to include a Timberwolves trade, even if it's not realistic, just because I'm a Timberwolves fan. And that's the Pacers get Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt in 2 seconds for Victor Oladipo. So I really like this trade for the Timberwolves, because you get Victor Oladipo, who can, like I said, I was going to say he was going to hide Kyrie Irving's poor defense. I think he could do the same thing with Russell, just better. But that puts LaMelo Ball in a weird spot, because are you going to put him at the 3? Can he really guard wings like that? I mean, he's tall enough to do it, so I'm not sure. But I definitely think the Timberwolves should take LaMelo Ball, and I'll make a whole video about that later. So, as for like what this does for the Pacers, I mean, Malik Beasley played lights out in his 16 or so games for the Timberwolves. Let me go to Basketball Reference real quick. Yeah, in 14 games for the Timberwolves, they averaged 20 points. So, he played very well. Very, very well at the end. As for Jared Vanderbilt, I don't know if... See, because I don't... as a Timberwolves fan, I don't want to give up Jarrett Culver for Victor Oladipo, especially coming off that injury. That's definitely something I don't want to do. I don't even know if the Pacers would want Jarrett Culver, so instead they get Jared Vanderbilt. This probably isn't the most realistic trade at all, but, I mean, like I said, I had to include one in this video. Anyway, so that's about it. See you.